Hi everyone, Harry here to talk about a series of stories analyzing the prospects for Supreme Court reform in the event Kamala Harris becomes president. Now, the premise of these stories, of course, is that the sets of proposals that Biden has advanced are really going nowhere. They're already were pronounced by the Speaker of the House before he even announced them at the LBJ Library on Monday, dead on arrival. We'll talk a little bit about what they would need to have to pass, but at a minimum, a congressional enactment, and to do that, they would have to get over the filibuster, the 60 vote amount to close debate. And that ain't happening. Everybody knows that ain't happening. What's the point of having dropped them now? Well, politically, the Supreme Court's an unpopular institution, and that kind of focus is a political winner. But also, as I suggested in the op-ed I wrote, maybe we'll do a link to it here. They're playing the long game. This is a way of starting what could be a longer effort, especially if a constitutional amendment has to happen, as it does for the first thing that, but the proposals have sort of three parts. Get rid of the immunity decision. That would require a constitutional amendment, and that's a long, laborious process. The last constitutional amendment, I didn't know this, that passed took 203 years, the 27th Amendment, and, Equal Rights Amendment has languished forever. Others are quicker, but, very, very, very cumbersome. Then there's all this ethics reform, and the basic idea is to make the ethics code, which there's basically, the state of play has been there ain't one, and now they've adopted one, but it's got no teeth because it's their own. Each individual justice does it for himself. We've had Alito and Thomas just kind of look the country in the eye and say, no problem here, move along, no ethics issue, and there's no pushback. So you would need to pass a law for that, and even then, I think it's very possible the Supreme Court would say, you can't do that, separation of powers, that's unconstitutional, and strike it back down, and we'd have that kind of stalemate. In any event, those two are, well, the first one I think is chimerical. It ain't happening, and something will happen on ethics. The big play here is for Biden, it's this term limit idea that instead of having vacancies when they arise and then have these sort of Armageddon battles to the death because the stakes are so high, and having presidents put up these carefully curated 42-year-olds to serve forever. If a justice had only 18 years, and then the other part of the proposal is that would cycle things through so that every 4-year term would result in 2 nominations. So you also wouldn't have the crazy situation that elevates the political stakes of some presidents, like Donald Trump, getting 3, others getting fewer. And, there's a general situation, if you look at the last 50 years, where Republicans have, lost the popular vote repeatedly, but they've had so many more appointments, and it understandably sticks in the craw of Democrats. A very quick aside, some people think that 18-year term limit would be unconstitutional because the Constitution says they get to serve for life. The argument against that is, they get to serve for life, but Congress can give them specific tasks. Like at the founding, they used to say, you guys be circuit court justices for a while. And they can do the same thing, 18 years and then sharpen all the pencils in the Supreme Court. I shouldn't be flip about past Supreme Court justices, sit on the courts of appeals or whatever. Some people say that itself wouldn't work because you're really taking away the character of their job. The main thing is, in order to be constitutional, it could only apply to subsequent appointments. Therefore, none of these proposals in any way ameliorates the grievous situation we're in with a totally lopsided uber majority court. And that's what progressives in particular have been wanting to do. How would you do that? One way only, I think, and very constitutional: expand the court. Put in 4 new ones for Trump's 3, fill them up, and go on. The problem with that is, it flies in the teeth of the FDR court packing plan, which was considered a political disaster, and just takes what could be a kind of a clean set of proposals and makes them very freighted. A lot of sort of court watchers and court lovers, I think I'm among them, though this court has so offended that I've thought about it, but come back to the view, no, you don't want to monkey with the Supreme Court that way. All right, that's the substance, but now let's go to Harris. Kamala Harris has not been a figure when she was in the Senate that was been out front on Supreme Court reform. She has said that she thought a crisis of confidence might be brewing way back then, when she was in the Senate, and she said as a candidate in 2019 she would be open to term limits, what Biden has proposed, and to court expansion of the sort I've just described. She would be open to it. Otherwise, she's pretty much a blank page. Sheldon Whitehouse, who is the sort of leading advocate in the Senate for Supreme Court reform, has said he always thought she was sort of with him, but in a quiet way, but someone that he could count on. However, the stories coming out now are suggesting, you know what, she really could be stronger than Biden. First, that reflects how tepid Biden has been. He, for basically his whole term, finessed and sloughed off the really strong calls from progressives to do something about this. He did the ultimate push the ball down the road, appoint the Blue Ribbon Committee, and he's just always rebuffed these efforts. And even today, when he's done them at the end of his term, they don't include the big holy grail that the progressives would like, because it would turn the tide on the 3 Trump appointees. So he's been not a particularly strong advocate for Supreme Court reform. And he was chair of the Judiciary Committee, and I think he holds strongly institutionalist views of the Supreme Court. So that's one reason why Harris is considered possibly more promising, just because Biden himself was not. But in addition to that, there's a little bit of inside Washington given Harris's staffing. And in particular, she has with her in the campaign and presumably handling judges, a man, Brian Fallon, who worked for Hillary and actually co-founded an organization dedicated to court reform. So the basic supposition is, hey, ain't going anywhere this year, but if she wins, and it does, given her staff, given her, she's now come, by the way, let me make one of the chief points. When she endorsed Biden's proposal, she went from there could be a crisis brewing in the Supreme Court to there is a clear crisis of confidence facing the Supreme Court, as its fairness has been called into question after numerous ethics scandals and decision after decision overturning long-standing precedent. These popular reforms Biden will help to restore confidence in the court, strengthen our democracy, and ensure no one is above the law. So she's sounding the sorts of themes that, if she were to embrace them fully in the Oval Office, would lead her to be a warrior for Supreme Court reform. Now, the big question on progressives' mind, how big would she be enough of a warrior that she would actually take on as president? Very, very, be a big roll of the dice, court expansion and the, addition of 4 justices. Although, again, I want to repeat, there's no doubt, unlike some of the other provisions here, Congress could just do it. If they passed that law, they'd have to get over the filibuster, and there'd be some Republicans there. It'd be a fight. But Congress can do it constitutionally. Would Harris go that far? And the sort of hopes of the progressive community are focusing now in a very inside Washington way on the personnel who are with Harris in the campaign, and their known very strong views in favor of tough medicine for the Supreme Court, including court expansion. Notwithstanding, what you have to think of is it would be a real use of political capital, because you think court expansion, you think FDR, you think going down to defeat in flames. But that's the notion. She wasn't much as a senator, but she's very strong now in her statement, and the people around her, give some indication, maybe it's more like hope among progressive communities, that she would be way stronger than Biden, and indeed maybe even make this a leading tenet of her administration. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.